before I get into talking about my predictions, I did want to kick off on what happened in the most recent update. I haven't made a video yet, and after seeing how it played out in Duo Cash Cups, I feel like I can give a bit more of an answer. So first off, we had the Mammoth Pistol being nerfed. It had a range damage nerf, so it has more damage fall off at medium to long range, and we had a headshot multiplier nerf. And with these two nerfs combined, it has brought the gun a lot more in line with being more balanced, but it is still really, really strong. At first, when I saw this, I thought, man, damage nerf and headshot multiplier nerf, so it's kind of like a double nerf. That's really gonna hurt the gun. And honestly, it has, but it hasn't. It is still a very viable gun. Almost every duo is still having at least one player run it in all the set lobbies I'm watching. And if you've got players who are still absurdly good with it, they're absolutely frying and is carrying their surge. It's maybe not as bad now. You're not getting a headshot for 190 across the entire map, which is a lot better, but the gun is definitely still viable. Now, the second one, which not a lot of people talked about, but is actually probably one of the biggest changes coming into grand finals especially, is the changes to the flag. If you guys now don't know, you can capture flags faster if more people are standing on them. This goes for POI flags, but it also goes for the Rift Island flag. So instead of being 45 seconds to capture it previously because there was no multiplier, now if you have a full duo, 2 players standing on it, you capture it in 25 seconds. That's almost half the amount of time to capture the flag on the Rift Island. So if you get there first now, you're at a huge advantage. Remember, the Rift Island gives 15 points and gives you all of the slurps, and you now have the best spot on the entire map to get surge, to rotate off. You have the vault underneath it. It is just an absurdly powerful spot to go for. So if your teams like Bucky and Okas, who have been really putting in work to claim the island and consistently claiming the points from it, they just got a huge buff coming into grand finals. Now, let's talk about my top 10 predictions for both NA and EU for the FNCS Grand Finals, which start tomorrow. If you want to swing by my Twitch channel and watch all the action, I'm going to give away V-Bucks, going to be doing bingo boards, going to be doing a whole bunch of fun stuff, including a $1,000 prediction game. So stick around. Later in the video, I'm going to explain how you can enter my prediction game with a $1,000 prize pool. And all you got to do is do your best to pick the top 10 from these Grand Finals. You can even take my list if you don't know. I even have prize money if you have the worst predictions. It's going to be good fun. Stick around for that later in the video. So let's talk about my top 10 on NA and EU, and also talk about some big names and why they're not in my top 10, like Clicks and Epic Whale or Savage and Vidil, which I know is going to upset a lot of people, but I wanted to get that out of the way early. So my top 10 on NA in order is Acorn and Cold, Rise and Eomzo, Kanata and Ages, Barker and Paz, Bucky and Okas, Booga and Threads, Poyo and Sphinx, Aviv and Skittles, Peterbot and Larson, and Clarity and Trashy. In the top spot, no surprise, or maybe surprise that I didn't have Eomzo and Rise, I have Acorn and Cold. They just won today's Cash Cup on 495 points, winning 3 of the 6 matches. And again, you take the rest of their placements in Duo Cash Cups, first, second, third, and first. Now, their FNCS placements are a 2nd, 8th, and 16th. Again, obviously, once they were already qualified, I think week 3, they weren't really taking it that seriously, like most of the duos weren't, so their placements are ridiculous right now. I know Acorn and Cold were going to split before this season. The vibes weren't really there, but obviously picking up a coach, fixing the vibes, they are looking insane. And I think Acorn streaming a lot of these tournaments has shown just how good this duo is. It's hard to pick them out over Rise and Eomzo. I know Rise and Eomzo are also looking insane. If you guys don't know, Acorn and Cold are dropping just to the kind of west of Mega City. They're really good on this split. This split, I don't think, is absurdly overpowered. It's really solid, but they are just such a good duo. They have so much experience here. They really make it work. But also, I think they're going to be able to kind of play the teams around them. If you look on the drop map, you've got Broken's team going up against Day and Bully. So they've got a triple con just to their south. They can roll up and put down so much damage and key this if they want to. If they get zone, which is actually one of the riskiest spots to be in the current season as far as early surge, they can now just rotate down and just take on any team they want, pick up the solos rotating out. They're in such a good spot with their spawn fight situation. Then, second place, no surprise here, we have Rise and Eomzo. Their placements, again, phenomenal right now. In the Duo Cash Cups, 7th, 2nd, 1st, and 16th. Now, I will say today, disclaimer, today in the Duo Cash Cup finals, there was yet again another aimbotting duo. They spent a lot of their tournament trying to grief Clicks, but they did actually jump on Eomzo and Rise 2 of the games, and then Rise and Eomzo also started getting contested by a console duo. So today's Duo Cash Cup placement, I don't think you can lean on too much. So you're looking at a 7th, 2nd, 1st, and 1st. Now, in FNCS, they're at a 1st, and 4th. Their placements right now are insane. They are on the best drop in the map. The castle and the gas station combined is 100% the best drop in the current season, and they currently have it uncontested. Now, everyone around them is uncontested, so unless something changes around them, this is going to be a phenomenal grand finals for them. My only fear with how good their loot is like you're currently seeing in a lot of these cash cups, teams might want to contest. This is a 2-day tournament. It's 12 games across 2 days. There is a good chance teams who aren't doing well day one are going to potentially switch up their drop and think, hey, Ryzen Yomzo are scary, they're really good, but if we can just take them down on spawn, we get the loot we need to win the game. And that is very, very appealing for a lot of duos. Also, you could have teams start to try to take the gas station from them. On EU, predominantly, you will have the castle and the gas station actually split. You will often not have a duo getting both of them. So I'm a little bit scared for Ryzen Yomzo, but if they keep this drop uncontested 12 games out of 12, I would be so surprised that they don't get at least top 2. Third place, no surprise, we have Kanata and Aegis out of Racetrack. Since they added the Mammoth Pistol, Kanata and Aegis consistency has just gone up a notch. Kanata has been streaming all the tournaments. He has been going crazy. Everyone's been able to see on stream how good his vibes are and how good this duo is. As far as their placements in duo cash cups, they've got an 11th, a 12th, and a 2nd. And then in FNCS, they've got an 8th, 4th, and 1st. They didn't unfortunately make today's duo cash cups, so we don't know exactly how well they went in the finals for that one. But across the board, their placements, while being good, have also ramped up and only gotten better in the last few weeks since the Mammoth was added. So I'm very excited to see if this team can pull it off. Racetrack is a good drop. It is not phenomenal, but it's definitely not poor by any means. There's a lot of teams around them, and again, none of them are really contested, so they don't really have like any kind of advantage coming into this finals, but it's looking like a pretty normal drop spot around them. Pretty much everyone dropping around them, they've been playing in these duo cash cups and FNCSs with and doing really, really well. In the 4th spot, we have the pride of NA West, really holding it down for the NA West duos right now. On NA Central, we have Barker and Paz, who I think are currently the most underrated team in NA. I know a lot of you guys watching this who maybe don't follow NA comp, but like Barker and Paz, like I don't even know who these guys are. They're that underrated, but if you look at their placements, you really should know. In duo cash clubs, they've gotten a 14th, 4th, 4th, 3rd, 4th, and 2nd. Absolutely insane. Their FNCS placements aren't as solid. They got a 20th, 3rd, and 19th. But again, that first week's 20th is when they were contested by Marzo W, and it turned into a really griefy kind of spawn fight. They're dropping on the far north of the map on this big split, so it is very easily griefed. Marzo W was swimming to basically Atlanta some of the games, just going out into the ocean, so it really messed up Barker and Paz's consistency. But across the board, they have been playing really, really good Fortnite. I genuinely think Barker and Paz are one of the most underrated duos right now, and if you VOD review them or you watch them in replays or pay attention, they have a really, really good grasp of the meta. They're not one-trick warriors for high ground or low ground or mid ground. They really can play all aspects of the game, and I would be really surprised not to see them get a top 5. Next up, we of course have Big Bucky and Okas. Bucky has been doing really, really well this season. He has a fantastic drop. He's going to trailer park. They have this drop locked down. If anyone tries to contest them, they are not going to have a fun time of it. It looks like Poyo and Sphinx might be trying to take a little bit of the temple, which would mess them up, but I think with the loot they have to go for, Bucky and Okas will get that every single time first. And if Bucky and Okas don't get there first, they are going to fight for it. They are not scared of any duo. They have been getting a lot of their points fighting for the flag. They have been the most dominant flag team on NA. Bucky made the claim he was going to take it 6 games out of 6, and while he hasn't done that in a set lobby, he is getting it consistently, at least usually about 3 times in set lobbies. But you might be thinking, one-trick warriors, if other teams start going for the flag, they won't do as well. Well, the last week of FNCS, because they were already qualified, Bucky said, hey, everyone's saying we need the flag to do well, let's not go for the flag, and they came 2nd. Their duo cash cup placements are 3rd, 27th, and 12th. I didn't put on here a lot of Bucky's placements because he's been playing with a lot of other duos. He's been playing with Cooper. This cash cup he played with Pilot because Okas went away, so their duo cash cups aren't too great to go off, but they haven't really been playing them that much. But their FNCS placements, 5th, 7th, and 2nd, have been absolutely phenomenal, and who doesn't want to see Bucky win an FNCS? He is looking ridiculously solid right now. I really, really hope this duo keeps up the consistency. I did have them picked, I think it was last season or the season before. They were going into finals with a really good drop, this same drop, uncontested, and unfortunately Bucky did underperform, and he knows that as well, but I know he's been grinding even harder this season to hopefully make sure that doesn't happen. Next up, 6th place, we have Booga and Threats. The duo cash cup performances have been really solid. 3rd, 13th, 3rd, 28th, 5th, and 4th. When they're uncontested, they're averaging a top 5. They're looking really, really good. In an FNCS, they have a 9th, 18th, and 13th. Their split is the same split they've been going for a while now. isn't really anything crazy. I don't think it's a phenomenal split, but if you look at the drop map, same thing I talked about with Acorn and Cold. They have a really big third-party potential to play onto that steamy triple contestion. I really think with threats and the Mammoth in his hand, one of the craziest Mammoth aimers in the game, not just NA, wandering around in this big open area with so many teams contested around them, he should be farming Surge and potentially elimination. So I have high hopes. I feel like a lot of people haven't been talking too much about Bugha threats. They have also been quite vocal about a lot of the tournaments they just haven't been trying that hard in, and that falls in line pretty well with Bugha. Bugha has been such a phenomenal player for such a long time now, and I always thought it was more of an influence from Mero that he just didn't take certain tournaments seriously, but it seems one of the keys to Bugha's success is just not taking the game too seriously when he doesn't need to. But he has a massive proven record in grand finals, 3 FNCS wins under his belt. This could potentially be a 4th. I would be surprised to see them not get around that top 10. I just have them not in my top 5 just because the consistency has been a little bit off, but if they get decent zones, they're looking really good. In 7th, we have another NA West appearance, not an NA West duo, but at least Poyo representing NA West alongside Sphinx. Again, another duo like Acorn and Cold that tried to split up this season. I kind of thought their vibes would just be shot. There was no way they were going to bring it back after they qualified for global champs and then still tried to split up with each other. Poyo wanted to drop Sphinx. Sphinx wouldn't sign the papers and held him hostage, but now they're here and they've obviously put their differences aside because they are looking really good. Their duo cash cup placements are 2nd, 9th, and 18th. And then FNCS is an 11th, 2nd, and 21st. That 2nd place looking really solid. They are dropping at the temple just to the west of Rise of the Yomzo. They also get a guaranteed temple vault, which same with Bucky and Okus and a few of these other teams I've talked about, is a really good position for them to be from. They can rotate around the map so easily. They can heavily pressure those flag islands if they want to, like Bucky and Okus is doing, but they're also a very solid height team. And right now in this current lobby, there's not really any one dominant height team that's been making big plays for it. And I think if one team is going to step up and actually start claiming it consistently early, it might just be Poyo and Sphinx. In 8th place, and this isn't based too much on their placements, but also just how I know they are as players, we have Aviv and Skittles. In duo cash cups, they've gotten a 9th and an 11th, and in FNCS, they've got a 33rd, a 9th, and a 3rd. But a lot of the times, Aviv and Skittles' inconsistency comes from the Brutal Bastion situation. If there's 3 to 4 teams at Brutal, it makes it really hard to get the loot you need, get the vault, and get out. Usually, it creates these weird kind of spawn fights where people are holding each other in the vault. It gets really griefy, and it really slows down their rotations. But if you look at the drop map, it's only them versus Convict and Vanillas, which I think will go very well for Aviv and Skittles. And as I was just talking about height teams, if there's going to be one duo that just absolutely dominates height, claims that no one can stop them, it's going to be Aviv and Skittles. And Skittles has been that player that's kind of always been around the top. A lot of people have paid attention to him, but in the last few seasons has gone a bit quiet. Kind of always that dark horse who you know can have that huge pop off like 10 or 20 bomb game, but is struggling with the consistency. And I think this is going to be their season where they put that behind them. Speaking of aggressive players with huge pop-off potential who sometimes struggle with consistency, we have Peterbot and Larson in 9th place. Their cash cup performances have been solid, 16th, 9th, 7th, and 6th. And in FNCS, they've got a 22nd and a 10th, and they didn't make the 3rd week, but they're looking really good. Their drop spot is incredibly solid. They're right in the middle of that map. They have a lot of potential to push down and take advantage of the third-party Natch, Wavy, Braids visual fight. They can even go north and take on the Shaw, Bryce, Chris fight. That's a triple contest for a good chunk of that loot. They really do have the teams around them they can make plays on and make moves on. They haven't really been showing their hand too much going for the island and the Rift Island in a lot of these tournaments, but they've also been contested most of the finals they've played, and they've still done this well. So uncontested, as long as them losing that surge and extra elims doesn't affect them, they are looking incredibly solid coming into this one. I could easily see them getting a top 5 with Uncon, just because we haven't seen them play a lot of Uncon finals, though I don't necessarily have them higher. But Peterbot has a proven history of playing very well in online grand finals. He really does shine in these set lobbies because he has a lot of confidence. So I'm excited to see if this team can bring the consistency. And then speaking of consistent players, we have 2 of the OG GOATs, the team that I've got them in 10th based off their mental and their experience. They played really well this season. We have Clarity and Trashy. In the duo cash cups, they've got a 10th, 25th, and 7th, but in FNCS, they've got a 14th, 11th, and 18th. Now, their drop spot's nothing too fancy captaincy. They are dropping to the north of that triple contest of Bryce, Shaw, and Chris, which I think will give them really good third-party potential. They can sit up on that big ledge, take shots down. If they try to get pushed, they can just back up. They are looking really, really good. And again, it's Trashy and Clarity, two of the most consistent players in the history of NA Fortnite. And Trashy has been grinding really, really heavily. I was surprised to see him drop Pump after such good seasons, but he talked about how playing with a controller player just makes Surge really, really difficult. Wanted to pick up Clarity, one of the most consistent players in the region, and they are playing very consistent. Haven't got a placement inside that top 10 in FNCS, but always been inside the top 20. And I think with a 12-game format, that level of consistency and experience will shine. Now, I am missing some big teams, and I'm going to cop it for that. There are some really, really good performing teams that I didn't include in this list. Obviously, we have Mero and Cooper. They came second last FNCS. They just haven't really been taking the game seriously enough and playing the tournaments enough for me to really gauge how well they're going to go, but I didn't even have them on my list going into last FNCS, and they came second. We have the reigning champs, Dukes and Edgy, who are going Rumble Ruined, who can pull off an upset again. I didn't have them picked last season, and they won it, so they love both proving me wrong. We have Fatch and Pamstu, the Frenchies. They're so consistent, but their performance this season coming into FNCS had me a little bit scared. They just haven't been placing consistent enough for me. Degen and Pump unconned at Shattered Slabs, but I don't think they're going to keep all of Shattered Slabs unconned for the whole weekend. I would be very, very surprised to see that. Obviously, Clicks and Epic Whale, the big whale and Clicks, I don't have them on the list because I just haven't seen enough. Today, they looked amazing in the Duo Cash Cup finals. They beat hackers, like literal aimbotters, 2 times in a row. Whale even 1v2ing them, but I just haven't seen enough because they've been targeted so often in the weeks. I don't know if they've had the practice. Whale is also very, very ill right now. He was actually throwing up between the matches of Duo Cash Cup finals today. I hope Whale can kick that and focus in for grands. If they do get a top 10 or a top 5, I will not be surprised. But can I put them on my top 10 with so many other proven consistent duos when they just haven't got the placements to back it up? No. Maybe you guys do, and I wouldn't blame you at all. I really want to see this duo do well, but I just don't have the stats to back it up right now. So I'm going to leave them off my top 10. Reed and Rituals are such an aggressive duo who's had really, really good performances, but they really are a go big or go home kind of duo. If they can make it work, if their aggression pays off, those pushes pay off, I would not be surprised to see them pick up a few like 10 to 20 elim games. I am that confident when this team gets rolling, they can run through a lobby as long as the servers aren't too laggy. We've also got obviously Muzz and Paper, who are looking a bit shaky after week 1, but have really brought it back. The more this duo plays together, the better they look. I would love to see that duo get a top 10. And again, there's so many other duos on this list. I just can't go through the whole thing. Bro, these videos are always so ridiculously long. If you're still here, I love you. You're amazing. Let's kick off with EU now. This is my top 10 on EU. We have Thomas and Malabuka in first, Cammy and Seti in second, Taste and Mustache in third, Nebs and Hellfire fourth, Ping and Kyrie in fifth, Pink and Vico in sixth, Giras and Hari in seventh, Eyedrop and Mappy eighth, Kiro and Marine in ninth, and then Steno and Lucy in 10th. Absolutely no surprise here for my top 2, maybe because I've got them in first over Cammy and Seti. Thomas and Malabuka out of the racetrack. Their placements actually have not been that exceptional right now. Duo Cash Cups, 2nd, 30th, and 1st, so 2 really good placements. And then FNCS was a 16th, 1st, and 25th. And it's those 2nd and 1st places I'm going off because it's Thomas and Malabuka. They shine in the really high pressure situations. They are a really, really good duo, and Thomas with the new Mammoth Pistol is looking absolutely ridiculous. One of the biggest issues with Racetrack was their surge, and they now have that issue sorted. But you've got to compare that with Cammy and Seti in second. Duo Cash Cups, 1st, 2nd, 6th, and 3rd, and FNCS is a 6th, 4th, and 2nd. So if I had to put all the money I own on one of these teams getting a top 3 guaranteed, I've got Cammy and Seti. But do I think Cammy and Seti are more likely than Thomas and Malabuka to have that huge tournament where they show up big, go crazy, and win it? No, that's why I've got Thomas Malabuka edging out Cammy and Seti. But I obviously, with that match history or that tournament history from Cammy and Seti, would not be surprised at all to see that duo bring it home. They're uncontested at Frenzy Farm, which is where all the magic happens for this duo. They've got Huddy versus Refsguard's team to the north. They've got Blaha versus Jakey to the west. They've got 2 good fights they can third party for their surge look around for. They are looking really, really good. I just have a feeling about Malabuka and Thomas, and maybe I'm biased. I just want to see Thomas get his FNCS win. It is getting ridiculous at this point. The Thomas has been one of the best players in EU since the very beginning and still doesn't have his FNCS win. And Malabuka, one of the best players in EU since Chapter 3, and again, doesn't have his FNCS win. They came second last FNCS. I'm calling a win here, but Cami and Seti, the consistent goats. In third place, it would not be an EU FNCS prediction list without Tayson and Mustache. Duo Cash Cups, third, fourth, third. Their FNCS placement's not as hot, a 42nd and 29th, but then last week they got a 6th. Tayson and Mustache have been having some chemistry duos. They've been public about this on social media, so have their friends. Apparently in one of the tournaments, Tayson and Mustache actually leaving the call and playing out the tournament without even talking to each other because they were that angry with each other, but it looks like they put their differences beside them. Their placements have actually gotten better if you include FNCS towards the end of the season, and it's Tayson. If you're gonna pick any player to just go crazy in a grand final, really show up in the big lobbies when it matters the most, it's Tayson. Mustache has also got so much comp experience under his belt now. Recently signed to Monaco. I obviously am going to have Tayson and Mustache in my top 3. I'm editing this back in here. Since I made this entire video, I've gone back and looked at the drop map that has now changed. They are now getting contested by Hen and Chapix at North Slappy. Don't think they're going to get a third place. We'll see if Hen and Chapix leave, but if Hen and Chapix stay, unfortunately, I think this might be one of those FNCSs where Tayson just takes the go next, has a dudded grands, and just proves that he'll never leave a drop spot. Unlucky, I guess. Fourth place, we have the aggressive W keys of Nebs and Hellfire. They are the most aggressive duo on EU right now. They love pushing every fight in the mid game and they win more than they lose. And coming into FNCS where points are worth 4 instead of the Cash Cups where it's worth 2, it rewards them even more. Their duo Cash Cup placements have still been really consistent. 7th, 19th, a 28th, but then a 2nd and a 2nd. And now their FNCS is a 13th and a 5th. So they are looking really good, and they have also increased their consistency coming towards the end of this season, coming into grand finals. When you're playing super aggressive and you have the aim and mechanics of Nebs and Hellfire, and then you put a Mammoth Pistol in the game, they can open up their fights with 150 tags. They are going to look crazy. So they are looking very, very good coming into this. I like their drop spot again. It's nothing super crazy. They're dropping on the kind of more north of the map. They do have a guaranteed temple vault as well, which lets them W key around and get around that mid game. They love going into the jungle biome and really just kind of scrapping it out with all the teams in there. Due to the fact there's no teams contested in there, I don't know if there's going to be any kind of off spawn fight. They're going to look to third party more consistently, but in the previous weeks in the tournaments they've played, they haven't really had a clear target to third party on spawn, and they've still just absolutely farmed every duo around them. In 5th place, we have what I think is probably the most underrated duo right now in EU. We have Ping and Kyrie. There's just not enough people talking about how consistent they've been so far. And again, they're looking better as the season progresses. In Cash Cups, they've got a 10th, 21st, and 8th. And then in FNCS, they've got a 25th, 26th, and 3rd. They are dropping at, again, a similar spot to Nebs and Hellfire, just a little bit further to the south of that. They have that guaranteed temple vault. They get a bunch of loot in a very dense, close area. And they also get hollow chests. And they can use that to then move around. They can go snow biome and look for tags up there. They can rotate into the jungle area. They're in a really good spot of the map where massive zone pulls don't really have a huge effect on them because of that guaranteed temple vault and being so close to the center. Also, with the new Rift Island change, if they want to make plays for the Rift Island, they're in the perfect position to do so. Next up in 6th place, and this is a duo I really want to see do well for both of them, we have Pink and Vico. Pink, very decorated player on EU, has been a little bit quiet now for the last few seasons. Vico, who has been one of the most focused on players for the last couple of chapters, everyone waiting for him to have that pop off. He did have that at Red Bull solo LAN, but again, being a LAN, and it was a little bit goofy. A lot of people haven't put the respect on his name he deserves from that. He played really, really well, and I don't think anyone is trying to argue that Vico is not one of the most mechanical players in any lobby he steps in, just hasn't had that competitive consistency. But this season they're turning that around. Duo Cash Cups, they've got a 3rd, 16th, and a 5th, and FNCS they've got a 7th, 9th, and 1st. Really, really consistent. And again, they're dropping on a similar position or pretty much the exact same split as Acorn and Cold, who have proven that it is a winning split. If Pink can channel Vico's aggression and kind of let him loose when he needs to, but then reel him back in so he's not going for free loot, they're looking really, really good. Speaking of underrated duos again, in 7th place, I have Giras and Hari, one of the Polish duos. Their duo cash card placements in 8th, 16th, and 23rd. Their FNCS has been a 19th and 29th. So nothing super crazy as far as their placements go. They are on that very far north split, like I talked about, the Trashy is on. They're actually going to be claiming the Vault every single time. So they do have a Vault Rift, which is one of the biggest issues with dropping this far north. I think they can make really, really good plays on the TD, Misha, Paco, Yapko fight, even moving as far as to go over to Ardas versus Peshka if they really wanted to, but that would probably take them a fair bit off their rotate path. But they've been a really consistent duo. I think they've got the composure to hold it together for grands, and when it comes to a 12 game format, I just have a really, really good feeling about them. Now, speaking of a team that's maybe not as consistent, but I really honestly think they could win this FNCS, I just don't have them higher on my list because of the consistency. iDrop and Mappy. Duo cash cups only a 4th and 29th, and FNCS a 1st and 36th. Obviously that first place showing why I'm backing them. They're dropping dead center of the map, but they are the height team in this lobby. There is no Queasy and Veno in grand finals. There's going to be big teams like Tayson, who I've now figured out is contested. There's not really that one dominant height team, and I think iDrop and Mappy are going to fill that bill. They don't have the placements to back it up, but if you've been watching competitive, you know iDrop and Mappy as players, they are going to play aggressive for that height, and if they pull it off even slightly consistently in a 12 game format, they are looking really, really good to potentially win all of FNCS. I just don't have them higher than 8th because it could also go wrong and they don't do too well. We're gonna have to see. They're kind of the coin flip duo right now. Our last two duos in 9th, we have Kiro and Marion. Really consistent, again, very underrated as far as their placements go. 18th, 7th, 14th, and 6th, and FNCS a 22nd and an 8th. They have been playing very, very well. Realistically, off their placements, I probably should have them higher, and I think they're going to be a good shot for a top 10. I'd be very surprised to not see them a top 10. I don't know why I don't think they can have that big performance. Marion, decorated player, obviously won DreamHack solos way back in the day, but both these players been a little bit quiet, but I'm very excited to see what looks like their current season. They are jumping Rumble Ruins. They do have that guaranteed Vault portal as well. They can play off Huddy and Tropex and Refsguard and Tripper and Spawn fight. They can make their way down to Blaha versus Jakey. They really do have a lot of control in that dead center position. And then Steno and Lucy, duo cash cups, a 31st, 17th, and a 13th, and then FNCS an 11th and 8th, and they didn't make week 3. They are dropping Mega City on the north side, which is where Clicks and Whale are dropping. It's not a phenomenally good drop, but it's also not a terrible drop. They have really, really good early surge, and in a 12 game format, if you have good early surge guaranteed no matter where zone pulls, that is one of the best factors for consistency coming into the finals. So I really think Steno and Lucy could have that big game. They've been consistently hovering around that top 10, so you'd be crazy not to have them in your top 10, I feel like. Okay, the big elephant in the room. Yes, I don't have Vidil and Savage in my top 10, despite them actually not playing poorly at all this season. And it's for one main reason. It's just mentality. Even Vidil right now on Twitter, 2 days before grand finals, is talking about how he's going to quit after this FNCS. Just says the game's terrible. He's completely burnt out. He is not enjoying it at all. So I'm just a little bit scared. Do I want Vidil and Savage to place top 10? 100%. I'm still so sad they missed out on global championship last season by 1 elimination. And if they fix it up, do they have the ability to get a top 10? Definitely. I will not be at all surprised to see Vidil and Savage get a top 10 in this grand finals, but just based on how they've been playing this season and especially their current mentality, I just can't bank them over some of these other teams. Obviously, there's no Queasy and Veno. If this is somehow news to you, they didn't make the finals. Nipsey and Archie, obviously a good shout. I mean, Nipsey and Archie, I would be so surprised not to see them win FNCS.
Everyone's going to be looking at us a pistol, so do not peek. Like, the whole lobby will be looking at a pistol.
but, you know, I kind of left them off the top 10 to give some other teams a chance. Really got to give them a spotlight. You know, Archie and Nipsey's socials are blowing up. Everyone's focusing on them so much. I thought I might just, you know, not give them any more hype. I'm trying to keep their ego down a little bit so Archie doesn't get too confident going into this grand finals. I would have loved to have put Blaha and Mixon. I actually had Blaha Mixon in third originally based on how good they've been playing this season, but they're contested by Jakey and Nathan, which I just think is going to be a bit disastrous. They might be able to pull it off. They are a phenomenally good duo, but it's such an awkward 50-50 for that mansion drop. We have Huddy and Tropex up against Refsguard and Tripern, two very good teams who, again, locked in a spawn fight with so many good aggressive teams around them is going to get ugly. All of the teams dropping at the castle. Pablo and Bevies, again, a definite top 10 if they were uncontested, but they are getting dropped on by Skydoon and Shakos, and even then, if they win that, they aren't guaranteed to get the gas station, which our console duo Akira and Skyjump are dropping on, who could easily just rotate over and key them. Moneymaker and Fanayan, I really wanted to put them in the top 10. I'd love to see them do well. I just think there's been other more consistent duos in the top 10. Swizzy and Putrick, again, very, very consistent. It's EU. It is so hard to pick EU. I feel like my consistency of picking NA's top 10 is so much higher than EU. I've watched every tournament this season. I've followed everything. I've done my best to run all the stats. It's EU. There's so many good duos, anything can happen. All right, if you've made it this far in the video, you're an absolute goat, and I want you to enter my Fortnite predictions game. It is for a $1,000 prize pool. All you got to do is go to fortnitepredictions.com, enter in the top 10 that you think in order. Whoever gets this closest to being correct is going to walk away with the prize money. We're giving prize pools for top 3 on both regions, and also adding an extra bonus prize for whoever has the worst prediction. So even if you've watched this whole video, you disagree with me, or you've learned nothing, just go pick some teams and try and win some money. It's some good fun. Make sure you swing by my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Aussie Antics. I'll be doing a watch party for grands all weekend. It's gonna be super exciting, a bunch of fun. Don't miss it.